You're watching National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasts, 70 shows, and a 3.5-star rating on Roku TV.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
There you go. Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here, sitting in for Mac McGrath on the Friday Mac and Jack show. We welcome everybody watching on, of course, the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Get those channels downloaded. Lots of great content day in and day out, every day of the week. Please get those that channel downloaded for free right now on Roku. We got a lot to talk about today. We'll get into last night's football game a little bit. Some news about one of my favorite football coaches. We got some other football news to kind of get into. I welcome Mac's everyday partner, but regular partner, Jack Hirsch, this morning. Jack, how are you?
Good. You know, this is a big opportunity for you, Keith. We miss Mac. I mean, he's our starter when he, gets back off the injured reserve. But this is an opportunity. You could go free agent when Mac comes back, Keith, and you might have some people bidding on you.
I think I'll be renegotiating my contract for sure, Jack. I'm probably going to use you as my, my launching point. That's where I'm going to be shooting for. Everybody's shooting at Juan Soto now. I'm going to be shooting at Jack Hirsch.
I just want to say this. With the show we're doing today, I can make one guarantee. We're going to be a lot more exciting than the game last night between the 49ers and the Rams. We'll be more entertaining than that.
I got to say, and again, there were some reasons for that. It was a deluge, at least when I was watching it early, and I didn't watch the end of the game, quite frankly, but it was sloppy conditions. Rams with a big win, and I think in a way a devastating loss for the 49ers. The Rams just handled the conditions a little bit better. They ran the ball fairly efficiently, and the 49ers didn't. And I think this is a worse loss for the 49ers than it is a better win for the Rams. What are your thoughts on that?
Obviously, the 49ers season is done. They're not making the playoffs. The question is this, Keith. Is it just an off year for the 49ers? And even good teams have that once in a while. It's just not your year. Yeah. Or has their window closed?
It's possible. You may be right, because you've got some guys there. They'll have to they continue to have to make contract decisions on these stars all the time. And it seems like when they don't have that, all of those guys together, none of them individually are as good as they are as a whole, right? Debo Sweeney was kind of a non-factor last night and has been at different times this year. And I think a lot of that is because of McCaffrey being out of the lineup most of the time. I think that affects Debo a lot. Kittle in and out of the lineup. So injuries, these guys keep getting hurt. You can't keep running it back forever, can you?
Yeah, Debo Samuel, he actually tackled his own guy yesterday accidentally to show you about. And also their linebacker, on the 49ers, Devondre Campbell, he just quit on the team.
I don't
that's
understand.
The worst thing you can do. He was asked to come into the game in the third quarter. He refused and he walked back to the locker. Obviously, they're going to cut him. He can't come back.
Today.
Even George Kittle after the game ripped into him. Other players are being diplomatic. Well, they don't know what happened. They have to hear more. You could tell Kyle Shanahan, the 49er head coach, was unhappy. But George Kittle told it like it was. You know, he's disgusted. You know, you don't quit on your guys. And he did it yesterday during the game. If you're going to quit on them, do it during the week.
I agree.
The coaching staff, no, I don't want to play anymore. If a guy wants to retire, he doesn't want to play football anymore, that's fine. But
he likely is retired.
When they call on you, you say, no, I'm not going in, and you walk to the locker. That's being selfish.
Yeah, he's likely retired today because they're going to cut him, as you said. And who's going to pick this guy up? That's a cardinal sin to me. That team needed him. They had injuries in the linebacker core. And you wait around, and I understand whatever. He's got pride. He hasn't been used the way he wants to be. But when they do call on you, and for these guys who say, well, we don't know what happened. Well, Kittle pretty much said, I don't want to play. That's it. There's no other reason he quit. There's no other way to parse this. You know, a lot of times we can find ways and look for little nuances. Well, there's no nuances here. Go in the game.
I could have a mental lapse for a moment and not want to go into a game because he's insulted.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't define his career. Look, when Reggie Jackson refused to bunt with Billy Martin, it doesn't define his career. He had a bad moment when Scottie Pippen didn't go.
I was going to use
he had a bad moment. Come on. But people keep remembering that with Pippen, but they also know the way he played day in and day out and what a great teammate he was. That defines him more. But it was more than just a moment when you walk to the locker room and you just don't want to go. And, even with Noma Garcia-Parra, there was a point where they felt he quit on his teammates. I can understand the guy's pride is being hurt. He's not used the way he wants to, especially if a guy feels he should be starting, he hasn't been given a chance, and the coach sends him in, for example. If he's a quarterback, kneel down, take a knee for the last couple of plays of the game. The guy could say, screw it, I'm not going in for that. I can understand it, even though I don't condone it still. But, it happened, and Campbell will be gone from the 49ers. Dreadful season for the 49ers. When we talk about the teams who've been the biggest disappointments, I mean, the Niners are up there. I wouldn't rate them as big a disappointment as the Jets because the Niners have had a lot of success in recent years.
Well, this year alone, though, they're close to being as big a disappointment, I think, this year.
And they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy, make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL soon, too. They're going to have to deal with that issue. I can't imagine them not doing it.
Yeah, they've got choices to move on. But again, you've got to have somebody to replace them, right? We always talk about it's easy to say we don't want to pay this guy or we don't want him around, but you got to have somebody else to play. The 49ers, again, I find it hard they're going to keep running this back. There's talk McCaffrey may be done playing altogether. We don't know yet. But a lot of these other guys have had injuries. We don't talk a lot about Kyle Shanahan. Is he potentially in trouble in San Francisco, do you think?
Well, he reportedly, at least as far as we know, and we don't know what goes on the inside this year, has had a good relationship with the GM, John Lynch. But why move on from Kyle Shanahan? He's been successful. This isn't a good year, but he's been successful all in all. Yeah. Why do we have to keep making coaching changes? Jimmy Johnson said a while ago, and he's right. He got very discouraged by seeing all the good coaches that are getting fired. There are 32 teams in the NFL, Keith, 32 head coaches. All 32 teams can't be successful year in, year out. I mean, towards the top. Some of them are going to have losing records. It doesn't mean they have bad coaches. Sometimes you just leave a coach alone. He'll turn it around in time.
Well, I agree to a point, but sometimes you have a ceiling. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, that's the question. Is he taken as far as they can go? They got to the Super Bowl twice and lost. Look who's here.
Want to say hi?
Come in. You want to say hi to somebody, Jack? Come in.
Go grab a
Hey, look who we got with us.
Oh, wow.
Hello. Say hi, Jack. My name is Scarlett. Say hi.
Scarlett, do you have a favorite team?
Just say hi.
He's a Patriot fan.
Coming
A
back?
Patriot fan. Okay, Scarlett. I mean, I hope they start winning by the time you turn 21.
Her dad's a Green Bay Packer fan, but we're going to work on that.
Oh, okay. The Green Bay Packers might pick to win the Super Bowl. Dad's a smart guy.
I don't know. She's a Patriot fan, or we call social services. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
There's no in between here. So anyway, sorry for that interruption. But again, is Kyle Shanahan? You hit a ceiling sometimes. I know I like Kyle Shanahan. You know, when I was doing the show with the Mad New Yorker, he constantly bashed anything to do with any Shanahan, and they've all been successful. So I don't know why we're bashing him. Yes, he's a great coach, and they've gotten to 2 Super Bowls. But in the world we live in today, we want to win everything, right?
Who are you going to hire if you fire Kyle Shanahan?
That's better.
I mean, you're going to probably hire someone who's already been fired somewhere else.
Yep.
Or, you don't have any set answers.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows Ben Johnson, the Lion coordinator. He's the hottest head coaching candidate in waiting, I would think. You have Aaron Glenn. You don't know how good a head coach he's going to be. It wasn't that long ago we hear about Eric Bieniemy. Oh, all these teams have to hire Eric Bieniemy, the hottest, coach in waiting. And Eric Bieniemy now is going to have a hard time getting a job as a coordinator somewhere.
Yeah, his window has closed as a head coach, I think. And you're right. Now there's blemishes on his resume overall. Was it all Andy Reid the whole time? He wanted to get out from under the shadow. I think we talked about it last week. You got to be careful what you wish for, because now he hasn't stood on his own all that well.
Well, sometimes it's good to keep a cushiony job and get a paycheck, okay?
Yeah.
Unless you want the head job so badly and it means so much to you. Eric Bieniemy had a cushy job, at KC.
Yeah.
Picking up a paycheck, just like Carson Wentz now. He's Patrick Mahomes' backup. He doesn't have to start in the NFL again. You have a cushiony job on a great team, and you're probably never going to get to play. And if you're called upon to play, great. He'll be ready, we assume.
Yeah.
But let's forget last night's game, 12-6. The only game in the NFL this year where a touchdown hasn't been scored. And it was reflective of the kind of year they had. Sean McVay, excellent job, with the Rams this year. A lot of people are counting them out. They're 8-6. I mean, they have a good chance to beat out Seattle and win the division.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the Rams, the other side of the story, the Rams, as they've been kind of up and down. They beat Buffalo last week at home, which is a good win for them. They beat San Francisco last night. Is this team a legitimate contender? Can they compete? Well, they can win the division. We know that. It's not that strong a division. Can they really do anything in the playoffs with this team as it's currently constructed against the Lions, the Eagles, and such?
Well, every year it seems there's one team in the NFL in the playoffs. Not that they go to the Super Bowl, but they surprise us. They win a game unexpectedly. Maybe they win a second playoff game. And even if they don't, they come mighty close to upsetting a powerhouse team like the Packers last year. They surprised us going into Dallas. Dallas seemed prime. They won the game, and they came very close to upsetting the 49ers in San Francisco. We seem to get a team like that every year. And before we know, maybe the Rams are that team.
A couple other stories surrounding the NFL. We have to talk about this, I think, with an NFL spin, because the greatest coach in the history of the NFL has decided to surprise everybody. I said last week, I don't know if we talked about it, the story broke after, but Bill Belichick was interviewing with North Carolina, and I kind of poo-pooed it, said this is never going to happen. He's doing a favor for somebody. And it turns out it was for real, and he's going there for 5 years and $50 million. Now, there's some strange aspects to this whole contract, by the way, which we can get into. I think Bill Belichick has taken this job for a couple of reasons. He thinks the system will work in college. By the way, there's already people running NFL-type systems in college. Look at Kirby Smart at Georgia and other places. He says... Here, I think he's going there because he knows, and I've done a lot of research the last few days. His people think there is not going to be a job for Bill Belichick. And if he wants to coach, this was the only place he was going to coach. And then there's the Stevie Belichick rumors, which haven't played out. The interesting part about this, I don't think Belichick, this means he's done in the NFL. The one aspect of this contract that really interests me, he's got a $10 million buyout, which is small to begin with when it comes to college coaches, that expires on June 1st, 2025. They haven't even played a game yet by then. And then it goes to $1 million. There's something weird about that whole thing. You know, you want to buy out Kirby Smart, it's going to cost you $70 or $80 million. So what are your thoughts overall about, and can he be successful is the other thing. I have my doubts.
Well, he can absolutely be successful. We're trying to get inside Bill Belichick's head, and people point out, how could you not want to go back to the NFL? You're 14 games away from the all-time win record. Maybe it doesn't mean that much to him. He'd like to achieve that, but not at the expense of enjoying life, in general. And watching him at the press conference yesterday, Keith, have you ever seen him so happy talking to the media? The guy was smiling. The guy was grinning. The guy was actually talking, Keith.
He's a different guy.
He wasn't just giving yes and no answers.
Outside of the football coaching scenario with Bill Belichick, he is that type of guy. That's not new. We've seen it all year on the Manning Cast on Monday Night Football and some of the other stuff he's doing. He has a personality. But in a football-related press conference, when he's, part of the story, no, I've never seen him in that type of demeanor.
And he looked happy. Maybe it's all of the above. He kind of became tired of this NFL scenario, and there was no guarantee he was going to get a job next year. And even though it's called tampering, everyone seems to tamper in professional sports.
Absolutely.
There would be a pipeline. Someone would call him from one of the organizations and say, our owner really thinks you're a great coach. This. There's ways to drop hints. Where was he going to go in the NFL next season? The Raiders, possibility. But for all we know, Mark Davis stays with Antonio Pierce another year, looks at one of the coordinators. What other jobs are going to be? Dallas? Do you think that Jerry Jones necessarily wants to move on from Mike McCarthy? Mike McCarthy has a track record. As long as he gets along with Jerry Jones, will keep him there. It's and once an owner, a high-profile owner, changes coaches, okay? He puts himself out there. If Jerry Jones, for example, fired Mike McCarthy, there would be a big backlash against Jerry Jones. Oh, he should be fired. He should be the one. He this or that. The Giants were the best fit for Bill Belichick.
By the way, they felt, and there was a great article, very in depth in the Athletic the other day, Wednesday maybe, diving into what Bill Belichick and his inner circle has been doing this entire football season. And he has gotten together with Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniel, with among others, every single week, and evaluated every single game that week and every single team, just like they would do when they were coaching. And they felt the Bears were the best spot for him, but they felt the Bears weren't going to offer him the job based on what they were looking for. They wanted an offensive guy to work with Caleb Williams. They felt that job was out. And the other people that, as you mentioned, talked to people around the NFL, the feeling was he was not going to get offered a job in this cycle anyway. Now, maybe he goes to North Carolina. This is why the buyout thing is interesting to me, that it's so low, especially after next June. He goes there and he has a good year. Now, he's going to bring some bigger names in the transfer portal. I have a little wonder about his recruiting capabilities. But if he has his team plays well, maybe wins the ACC, because he's not going to the SEC, he's going to the ACC. He wins the conference, goes to a playoff. He might be back in play in the NFL in 1 year. It's possible.
But if he's having a lot of success, and hypothetically he builds a program in college that could get into the playoffs and win a national championship, imagine, and they're so far away from it.
That's a long ways, yes.
Right now. But imagine he built a program and he's 3-4 years from now, he won a national championship. There would be no discussion who the greatest football coach was of all time, discussion would be over with what he'd do in the NFL and going back to college and taking a program that's in the bottom of the heap and moving them all the way to the top. But most important, Keith, let's forget about accomplishment for a moment. You get the feeling he's doing what he's going to enjoy doing. Yeah. You get the feeling he's having fun, that this is enjoyment to him.
Is it going to be enjoyable for him when he starts dealing with the demands of 18-year-old kids? And by the way, not professional agents anymore, just their dads and their hanger-ons around the family who make all kinds of demands to come to school there. And
it won't happen. It won't happen because this is Bill Belichick. His personality is going to be bigger than life. He's not going to be seeing a kid and having the parents making these demands. If it's an elite player he's recruiting, they're going to think this guy can get me to the NFL. That's his selling point. I can get you to the NFL. If he's trying to recruit a top high school quarterback, you don't think meeting with Bill Belichick and perhaps Tom Brady, who would do Bill Belichick the favor,
absolutely,
is going to sway the kid. Tom Brady's going to say, Coach Belichick meant so much to my career. I promise you, you won't go wrong with Coach Belichick. He's going to be hard on you, but he's going to make you a better player.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. And I just, following Bill Belichick for the last 25 years, basically, very closely, being a Patriot fan, I wonder what the ulterior motives are. It's hard to take him at face value for everything he says, right? And part of this, he wanted to coach, and this is the only place he could coach. So that says something to me. And it could be about rehabilitation. He's burned a lot of bridges in the NFL, and that's one of the reasons he's not getting the job offers. Plus, he's 73 years old.
He loves coaching, Keith. He could have a job in the NFL. He could be an analyst, go on all these shows. He has enough to keep him busy. The only thing I wonder about with Bill Belichick, the recruiting. At his age, to get on an airplane, to fly, to see the kid's family, this and that, I would think he would send his assistants. And if the kid is undecided, on the cusp, then he would make the trip to see the kid. I don't see him like a 40-year-old coach running back and forth all over. But let's take it at face value. He's back in coaching. And there's a certain
it's good thing, for football.
If you know about this more than I would, about the college atmosphere. It's very refreshing. Bill Belichick walking on college campus, in a way he's going to feel young again. It's going to give him a shot of adrenaline.
Yeah, and it'll give
all the college spirit, the enthusiasm. It's so much different from being like at New England or somewhere else.
It will, at least initially. It'll also give that burst to the program itself and the ACC. Quite frankly, the ACC has been talked down a lot. Florida State wanting to get out, Clemson wanting to get out. This might change things a little bit about the way people look at the ACC, similar to Deion Sanders in Colorado, how he changed the way people look at Colorado. So even when he wasn't winning, I mean, they looked at Colorado differently. So
and we're looking at North Carolina more than before.
Yeah.
North Carolina really wasn't that relevant. Now they're going to be very relevant. They're going to be in the news all the time. He's going to be invaluable for the university. You don't think the alumni and the students there, the fans in North Carolina, that's all they're saying. We got Bill Belichick. They are so excited over there.
The Falcons made a mistake, Rick said, of not grabbing Bill. But you know what? They did what they wanted to do. And the problem with Belichick and why he can't get a job is nobody believes him when he says, I'm not going to try to disrupt the organizational flow. I don't need control, but nobody believes that.
Raheem Morris, the coach of the Falcons, it was his basically second full-time chance. He coached the Buccaneers. It didn't work out beforehand. He'd been with the Falcon organization and they kind of wanted him back, to come. But I think the problem with Bill Belichick is this. You have to give him full control of an organization, in this case, the school, North Carolina. As far as the Bears go, any other GM, unless it's a young GM who has complete faith in Bill Belichick to treat him right and also to take his input, these GMs are going to feel threatened by Bill Belichick.
That's what happened.
They don't want him there. Bill Belichick wouldn't want to go to a team where he's just going to take orders from a GM. If I were a young GM and Bill Belichick was being interviewed and I had some say on whether he'd be hired, the owner told me, you have to be comfortable with him. I go to dinner with Bill and I say, look, Bill, I want to learn a lot. I want to learn a lot from you, but I also hope you respect my input. And once in a while, you might not be overly enthusiastic about a decision I want to make, but you will defer to me once in a while. Like I'm going to defer to you the same way. And you feel him out. And I think Bill Belichick would be honest. And I'd say, look, I'm here. I want to learn a ton from you, but you got to promise me you're going to help me be a better football person, and I could sit in and this and that.
You're absolutely right, but by all accounts, that's what the Falcons actually did. Exactly what you said. They had those meetings. He gave those assurances, and they made a mistake because at the end of the day, Arthur Blank wanted him, and all his important people in his front office said no. So it was like a 5-1 vote, and Blank went with his.
They felt their job security or whatever.
Agreed.
Status would be affected. But listen, let's not forget this important detail. His last 4 years in New England weren't pleasant.
No.
They got to the playoffs one year where they were 10-7 and got blown out in the first playoff game. In the other 3 years, it just didn't quite work out. And this last year was very difficult there. Would I have fired him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Bill Belichick meant a lot. Even now, if he were the Patriot coach, he would mean a lot for the Patriot brand. But I'll tell you this, if Bill Belichick would have coached this year, the Patriots, and it was the 5th year in a row that they, I don't want to say not going to the playoffs, this guy, they got there 1 year. But if they were having this down year, the Patriot fan base would be talking about maybe moving on from Bill Belichick, saying the game has passed them by. Let me ask you this.
What's happening last year?
Did Robert Kraft cost him a head coaching job with the Falcons in the NFL?
There is talk, and Bill Belichick and his camp think that Kraft did some undermining of Belichick in Atlanta and possibly other places that didn't even reach out to him. And if he did, that's a little petty on Robert Kraft's part, but whatever.
Okay, now let me ask you. Let me put you on the spot. You weren't prepared for this.
Okay.
You're much more of a college aficionado than I am. You have to give grades. From Bill Belichick's point of view, him getting this job, what grade do you give him? And then I'm going to want you to give the University of North Carolina a grade for the hire.
I'll give Carolina an A. I mean, there's nobody they're going to hire with a higher profile or more experience and more football knowledge than Belichick. I'll give them an A because, again, they've tried everything for decades and never been necessarily relevant in football, except for season here or there. Belichick, I'm going to B- to a C because I feel like he took the only job available to him. So, I think. And that's his own fault, maybe, if that's happened. So,
and in closing, you'd mentioned his son Stevie Belichick.
Yeah,
is his son Stevie? He's not joining his staff, though, is he?
Well, it has not been announced. I'd be shocked if Steve Belichick does not join the North Carolina staff. He's up in Washington with Jed Finch, and Bill spent a lot of time around that program. That's one of the reasons he started to become attracted, supposedly, to the college game. But still, and the reports were he was demanding that there be a succession plan and Steve be named the head coach when he left. That doesn't appear to be part of the contract, but we may not see all the details either. I think he's still going to join his staff.
He can't be a coach in waiting if he doesn't join the staff. And sometimes there are family conflicts with my Jets, for example. When Weeb Eubank was the head coach and he stepped down, the logical coach in waiting at that time, he eventually got the job, was his defensive coordinator, Al Michaels. but instead Weeb Eubank gave it to his son-in-law, Charlie Winner, who was a coach of the St. Louis Cardinals. He did have coaching experience. The family plays into it. So if these other guys like Matt Patrizia, Josh McDaniels, I don't think it's been announced yet, join his staff. They would join it with the understanding they weren't going to succeed them.
I think there's still a possibility. I think Steve comes there. I think there's no doubt Steve will join the staff here at some point. They're just waiting for the right time to announce that. I thought Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick had a fractured relationship, but they don't. Based on the story I talked to you about earlier, the fact that he's been meeting all season with Patricia and McDaniel, evaluating NFL teams, and that tells me that they may be in play for jobs. And the word is Joe Judge, who's in college now with where is he? I can't remember where he is. He's an assistant somewhere. He's a very good special teams coach. There's a lot of word that he will be on his staff as well. So. Anyway.
Bill Belichick doesn't have the greatest track record and recommendations, this and that. But another football news I want to get on.
Let's move. I want to move to the Favre Gastineau thing.
Yeah, it's going to be 30 on 30. I think it debuts tonight on the ESPN.
Oh, was it that soon? Cool, good. We all saw the video the other day, which was very awkward, and some people were messaging me think it was staged. There's no way this was staged because it was too awkward. And there's a lot of things to look at here. I don't think it appeared they had never talked before. When you see Favre first walk up, and we only small clip it looked like he tried to meet him a couple times and he was trying to be nice. And Gastineau, who I don't know whether he seems to have some issues. I don't know whether you have followed his post.
He boxed. Gastineau boxed after his football career ended. And believe me, football in itself, you may have taken a certain amount of head trauma, but then you go into boxing afterwards.
I kind of get, people have said, well, Gastineau upset, 30 years later, whatever it is. But I think other people have passed the record, but at that point in time, he had to have hurt Gastineau's earning potential, because he could have signed his autograph for a lot more money if he was the season's record holder for sacks. And there's no doubt in my mind, anyway, that Favre rolled over on that play. But what are your thoughts in general about that whole situation?
Well, for those who don't know, I think it was at a card show or something to promote 30 by 30.
Show, yeah.
Gastineau was there. He got up halfway in the room. Favre went across to meet him. Favre greeted him in a very warm fashion, and Gastineau said, "I'm going to get my sack back." Like, he said it like he was really upset, and Favre felt that it was like a threat. He said, "Hey, you'll then hurt me." And then Gastineau said, "I don't care, you hurt me." Like with what he did. And when Favre was led away, Gastineau said, and it was touching, "You hurt me, Brett." What happened? For those who don't know, and I think everyone watching the show basically does, Michael Strahan was one sack short of breaking Mark Gastineau's season sack record, but the Green Bay Pack offensive line completely kept Michael Strahan in check. Towards the end of the game, Brett Favre tanked the sack, tanked it, ran into Strahan deliberately. Him saying he didn't do it, he's lying. He's flat out lying. Yeah. Everyone knew he did it. The commentators said he did it. One of the Giant players was patting Brett Favre on the back as soon as the play ended, like, "Thank you, Brett. That's a great thing to give him the record." Shame on Michael Strahan, by the way, of gloating. "Oh, I broke the record." It was a dive. You didn't break it, Michael Strahan. It showed a lack of character on the part of Michael Strahan. Let's not lose that in the story. Michael Strahan showed a distinct lack of character by being given that gift unjustly, yet gloating about it, taking the full credit for something that he didn't deserve to get. Now, I'm going to say this for Brett Favre in his defense at the time. He thought he was doing something good. He really thought he was doing something good. He was thinking in terms of doing Michael Strahan a favor, going out of his way to get him the record. So his heart was in the right place at the time. Let's recognize that. However, think of the way he screwed up. His offensive line is busting their backs not to let Michael Strahan get the record. As a source of pride, he sold out his whole offensive line, Keith, in doing that. What were you going to say?
Brett Favre has done a lot of weird things in his career and his life, and he said even in his apology letter, which is full of.
It wasn't an apology letter. No, he denied taking a dive on.
But that's the way I'm just saying that's the way he positioned the thing as an apology.
Like it was, yeah.
And he admitted that when he was younger he did a lot of stupid things, and he did, and I think in his own way that was his way of saying with a wink maybe I did do it. That's what I'm thinking. But whatever the motivation, and it was wrong, and he took a dive. I don't disagree at all, and I think he pretty much said it without saying it. He didn't do this out of any malice to Gastineau. He was doing it as a favor to Michael Strahan, but either way, he did, and that's what Gastineau goes on to say in the video over and over again: "Is you hurt me, Brett." And what he meant was, I think he hurt him financially because he wasn't able to market himself the way he could have if this didn't happen. So,
but my beef, Keith, my beef with Brett Favre, he writes that letter to position himself to look good and saying, had the game been on the line, I would have made more of an effort to get out of the way. Obviously, had the game been on the line, if it was a 3-point game, he wasn't going to fall down and risk losing the game. We understand that. But the point is, he tanked the play. And if I'm the NFL, I should go back and maybe not credit that as a sack. I should retroactively take it away. I mean, do they do anything, the NFL, retroactive? Because that was not a legitimate sack. And if I'm Michael Strahan, I should apologize for accepting the record. And Michael Strahan has been wildly successful. He doesn't need with the money with this or that. Michael Strahan loves the NFL. He wouldn't do the NFL today, post and pre-game shows. We didn't love the NFL, because certainly he's in a very great TV position with ABC. But it was a disgrace what Brett Favre did.
I was just going to mention this, whether they take it away or not. As Robert says, the record's been broken again anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant at this point.
No, it's not irrelevant. I'm going to tell you why it's not irrelevant. Because when we look at records, Keith, in the future, people are going to look at them differently. They're not going to look who holds the record. They're going to look at who held a record the longest. Like some of my break, Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak, Keith, okay? But right now it's held up for what? Something like 77 years or whatever. I forgot the exact amount.
Yeah.
When did he said it? 1941? Yeah, 83 years. It's held up that record. Those are the greatest records, that go, consecutively with the years.
Yeah.
But I'm annoyed at Brett Favre because he didn't come clean with this. He made it seem, I was legitimately sacked, but I should have made more of an effort to get out of the way. He more or less said, I didn't tank it.
All these years later, he should have just admitted I rolled over and I
rolled over.
He would have come off better.
And he
would have come off better.
I had no idea the hurt that this caused Mark Gastineau. This pains me terribly. I was doing it because I wanted Michael Strahan to have it. I wasn't thinking of the hurt it could have caused the record being broken. And he could have said it absolutely broke my heart when I saw how hurt he was. And I can't tell you how much it pains me to have hurt Mark Gastineau the way I did, and and if I could do it all over again, I never would have, I never would have, gone out of my way to do Michael Strahan the favor that I tried to do.
I agree. Everybody would
look do that. He didn't do it. He denied tanking it.
Yeah. Everybody would look better.
Brett Favre.
Agreed. I'm looking forward to the 30-30 for now. And you know what? I don't think this video just got released by accident. I'm sure it was put out there because this is coming up. But
can I ask you this?
Sure.
But did this indirectly help Mark Gastineau's case to be considered for the Hall of Fame? How come he's
Maybe.
never given any consideration? Because he was considered a selfish player,
He
not a good
was.
teammate.
Right.
Which could be your segue into your baseball Hall of Fame.
It might. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Before we go to baseball, we'll say hi to Michael across the river. Michael Gott over in the UK. Good morning, Michael. Good to have
Michael.
you.
I don't know whether Michael in the UK reads the publication I write for in the UK Boxing News.
Check that out, Michael. Michael's a very well-rounded U.S. sports fan over there, so he comes on my shows a lot and participates in a lot of the conversations. Moving to baseball, I guess, and we'll stick with the Hall of Fame real quick, just because, and I do want to get into Soto quickly, and I know we'll run out of time quickly.
Yeah.
But the Hall of Fame did the Veterans, whatever we're calling it. They change the name of this committee all the time. I'm going to keep calling it the Veterans Committee. People who had not gotten in on the regular ballot, they get together and they vote every year for a candidate or two. And this year they did induct Dick Allen and Dave Parker, both players with a bit of a checkered past. Listen, Dick Allen, I think, was a great player. I know he had some behavioral issues and other things. Dave Parker, I think Dave Parker, in a lot of ways, has a better resume. And I've been a proponent for both of these guys. You have some good points I know you'll get to. But Dave Parker finished in the top 10 MVP voting 6 times, top 20 10 times, won one, was a Gold Glove winner 3 times. He was an excellent outfielder when he was younger. Injuries and other things took away from that later. And he was a dominant player for at least 10 years in his career. Injuries also played a part in both of these guys not having bigger career numbers. I know you have some issues with maybe both of these guys and getting into the
Hall. I mean, there was talk with the drug use with Dave Parker and all that.
Well, he was part of that whole Pittsburgh.
Yeah. You know, guys who didn't fulfill their complete potential, I don't have as much sympathy for them. Had Dave Parker been completely dedicated in all facets of the game, you might be talking about another Ken Griffey Jr. type. But he didn't quite. You know, he missed some years. Well, how come we can keep Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame because he took steroids reportedly for a number of years? But what about the years where we agree he wasn't on it, where he had outstanding years?
Mm-hmm.
That I could say was similar to Dave Parker.
Yeah,
I could say he was a better player than Dave Parker when both were clean. I could make that argument, too. That's debatable, though. But so we keep these guys out like Bonds, A-Rod, Clemens, but we put guys in who steroids wasn't the issue, but there was like a certain drug use over a period of time. And then even a guy like Dick Allen, he was a big problem. He refused to hustle. He refused to run balls out. He was a headache, for managers, from the Phillies to the White Sox. And like you said, he had such great talent. What did he get? 351 home runs. He should have hit 500 home runs, Keith.
Well, he missed a lot of time with injury, and whether those were real injuries, I guess, are debatable. Some of them were a broken leg. He would have won back-to-back MVPs probably in 72, 73 if he didn't break his leg in 73.
Keith, it's like in another sport, like a Terrell Owens. Is he a Hall of Famer? When you look at the way he tore the locker room up, you could argue no. But then when you look at his accomplishments, you could argue yes. Yeah.
No, it's subjective, and the length of guys' careers. We look at some guys want to look at overall accumulation of numbers, and some guys don't. And listen,
hey, but they were great players. They were great players at their best, Parker.
One thing I can't argue with you is these guys can't be in, and a lot of other guys can't be in. If Bonds isn't in, Clemens isn't in, those guys are Hall of Famers without the other stuff that they did. And I've always argued, put them in and tell the story, warts and all. And that's just my opinion. You can't have a Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and some others probably as well. So I kind of agree there. On baseball too, obviously since we chatted last, we had the Juan Soto signing, 15 years, $768 million, if I got the number right.
Oh, wind up being 805.
805. Okay. Again, a lot of talk about the Yankees this week, and some things as kids were kicked out of the restricted areas. And to me, it's a lot of whining after the fact. I really don't care about that stuff. I don't care that he's not a Yankee, quite frankly.
No one mentions this, but this would be the most brilliant move on the part of Steve Cohen if they did this. After 5 years, Soto's allowed to opt out. He's a great player. I got to assume if he's injury-free, he's going to be outstanding these next 5 years. That would leave an additional 10 years on his contract, and he'll be age 31 when he can opt out. You got to figure with the 10 years remaining, the last few years of that contract, he's not going to be as good.
Well, they all know that when they sign
him.
these.
Can you imagine he opts out after 5 years thinking, okay, Steve Cohen can match it and raise him from 51 to 55 million. And Steve Cohen goes, nah, we'll let him opt out. We got our 5 years out of him, peak years, and we're going to do other signings, elsewhere. That would be absolutely brilliant. And it might actually be a smart baseball move at the time. It might be.
Is the opt-out on both sides? I didn't actually pay attention to the opt-out.
After 5 years, Soto can opt out. He's getting paid $51 million a year. Steve Cohen can cancel the opt-out by raising him from 51 to 55 or 56 million. I forgot. I think it made like an extra 4 or 5 million a year. Yeah. He could just raise him and cancel. But Steve Cohen could let him opt out, like I said, and feel, wow, the last 3-4 years, he's going to be already, getting past 40. He's not going to be as good. Let him opt out. We got our 5 years out of him when he was at his peak.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with him not being a Yankee. There's $700 million to go spread around. They already signed Max Fried. Talk about them bringing in Kyle Tucker, who's a superior all around, not nearly the hitter that Soto is, but he's a better fielder, he's a better base runner.
Wait, but Kyle Tucker is a free agent at the end of the year. I do not want to go through that again. I'm all for giving up a lot for Kyle Tucker if they can sign him to an extension beforehand. Agree on an extension. I'll give up Lewis Gill. I'll give up whatever, else, depending.
But I've heard Heel and Rice might get it done.
And I would make that deal in a snap of finger only if I can sign Kyle Tucker to an extension. When guys have 1 year left on their contract, I don't like to make deals. It did work out with Soto the 1 year, and Soto's entitled to do what he wants. Yankee fans, get over this. He didn't lie to you. He came here for 1 year. You got it in your head, oh, he loves the bleacher creatures. I'm not going to turn down an extra $30 million so I could waive the bleacher creatures. Come on.
He was always going to where the most money was. There was never any doubt. There's a few guys that would message me, and I swear they messaged me just to get it. They want an opinion, but then as soon as I give it, they get me in an argument. That's all they want.
I don't want to.
So they had said, oh, he's going to the Yankees, going back to the Yankees. He wants to win. Well, he wants the money, and he's going to go where the money is. He's shown that. And if it wasn't all about money, he'd still be a national, for crying out loud. So,
I want to hear guys say it's not about the money when he takes less money than another team is offering. And it's not about the money. With Aaron Judge, it wasn't about the money. He signed for $360 from the Yankees. He was offered for 9 years. He was offered 10 years from the Padres for $410. So it wasn't about the money.
So let's just play hypothetical. And he does opt out when he's 31. Are the Mets going to have won a World Series at that time?
I got to believe they'll win a World Series under Steve Cohen at some point. What scares me with Steve Cohen...
In the next 5 years with Soto, that's what I'm saying, if he should opt out.
I think they would have won a World Series in the 5 year period. What scares me about Steve Cohen, he can spend whatever he wants. That's why he's dangerous. All these guys like Kyle Tucker, they can just wait. Just have a big year if I'm Kyle Tucker, no matter where I'm playing. And there's Steve Cohen waiting with the checkbook. Yeah. Figuring I'm going to pay every luxury tax. He's so rich. Steve Cohen might think, this makes an owner dangerous. If you're worth $20 billion, and you think to yourself, I love this team so much, I'm willing to lose $5 billion luxury tax, everything, just to get the best players, available.
Yeah.
It makes you really dangerous.
It does. It does. I think the Yankees will win a World Series before the Mets. How about that?
Yankees have a lot of holes now.
They do. A lot of money to spend to do it, though.
Max Fried was an outstanding signing.
Yep.
They have a excellent starting rotation. Excellent. They only have to tweak the bullpen a little, but then they got 3 positions, 2 infield positions, an outfield position. I kind of wish they would have brought back Gleyber Torres. He was stable. I know you didn't like him.
Not
but
a
I
thing.
think he would. Yeah. And
Bonus.
by the way, one last thing with Steve Cohen with Pete Alonso. I think it's a bluff. I don't think the Mets are interested in Pete Alonso. I think they're doing a favor for Scott Boras and Pete Alonso by making believe they're interested so other teams might speed up and give a higher offer.
Michael talks about the signing of a contract. Is age a big factor? Because you were talking about where he'll be at the end of this. All these teams know that at the end of this, they're not going to get the value that they get at the beginning. They all know that. Pitchers, position players, teams go into this knowing that they're not going to get that. And before we wrap it up, Jack, Michael does say he's going to check out your UK content, and he's not a big boxing fan, he said, but we can turn him into one, Jack. You're the guy.
I'm with you, Michael. Ignore these belts. See, no, we can't.
There you go. There you go.
Completely.
Jack, I appreciate you spending the time with me here today. We hope Mac is doing okay and then back into his chair soon. But I've enjoyed my time filling in with you. It's always an enjoyable hour-ish I get to spend with you on Friday mornings. So thank you.
Had a great time, Keith.
You have a great weekend. We'll see you next.
Best of luck.
Bye-bye.